Imagine a promise so powerful that God himself swears by his own holiness to keep it. A promise so unbreakable that he brings the sun, the moon, and the very fabric of the cosmos into the contract as eternal witnesses. A promise that survives wickedness, rebellion, and the collapse of kingdoms. This isn't fantasy, this is the incredible story of the Davidic covenant, an ancient agreement that reveals something stunning about God's character and his faithfulness across millennia. But here's the question that haunts scholars and believers alike: if God promised David's throne would last forever, where is it today? The answer to that question unlocks one of the most profound mysteries in biblical prophecy. Today, we're diving deep into a covenant that refuses to die, no matter what stands in its way. Welcome to Uncovered Biblical History and Traditions, the channel dedicated to lost stories of the biblical past. Discover stories of pre-Christian historical roots, biblical legends, lost church history, and forgotten historical characters of faith. It is very helpful if you hit the like, subscribe, and share. Help build my channel, and let's take a look together into these uncovered forgotten tales. The story begins with a curious warning embedded in God's promise to King David. The Lord tells David that his successor will face consequences if he strays from righteousness. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men. Now, here's where things get interesting. For centuries, many theologians assumed this prophecy pointed to Jesus Christ, David's ultimate descendant who would reign spiritually in the hearts of believers. But there's a glaring problem with that interpretation, one that scholars struggled to explain for generations. Why would God warn about chastisement for iniquity if he was talking about someone sitting on a spiritual throne in heaven? The idea that a heavenly ruler holding the scepter over a celestial kingdom would commit iniquity is, quite frankly, absurd. As the text itself implies, it is not at all presumable that the ruler, sitting on the spiritual throne, and holding the scepter over the heavenly kingdom, would commit iniquity. The answer becomes crystal clear when we shift our focus from the spiritual to the physical, from the heavenly to the earthly. This prophecy wasn't about a perfect divine king, it was about Solomon and the long line of very human, very fallible kings who would follow him. And history proves this interpretation correct. Many of David's descendants were as wicked as men ever get to be. The prophecy specified that it would activate when David's days were fulfilled, and when the successor would build a house for God. Solomon, set up as king after his father David, did exactly that. He constructed the magnificent temple at Jerusalem. The Messiah, by contrast, has never built a physical temple. Before construction began, Solomon sent word to Hiram, declaring his divine mandate: "Behold, I purpose to build an house unto the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord spake unto David my father, saying, Thy son whom I will set upon thy throne in thy room, he shall build an house unto my name." But the most powerful moment came at the temple's dedication. Picture this: Solomon standing before the altar, the entire congregation of Israel assembled, his hands raised toward heaven. In that moment, he offered what the text calls that wonderful prayer, declaring, "The Lord hath performed his word that he spake, and I am risen up in the room of David my father, and sit on the throne of Israel, as the Lord promised, and have built an house for the name of the Lord God of Israel." Solomon understood something profound that day, something he proclaimed before all Israel. He recognized that the throne, the kingdom, and the lineal house of David should stand forever. This wasn't wishful thinking or royal propaganda. This was a king acknowledging an eternal covenant, ensuring that the entire nation should be fully aware of the fact. The knowledge of this eternal covenant became so deeply embedded in Israel's consciousness that even during the nation's darkest hour, when the kingdom split into two rival nations, the promise remained central to Israel's identity. When Rehoboam and Jeroboam divided the nation, a man named Abijah stood on a mountain in Ephraim and challenged the breakaway northern kingdom with these words: "Hear me, thou Jeroboam and all Israel. Ought ye not to know that the Lord God of Israel gave the kingdom over Israel to David forever and to his sons, not son, not one, but many, by a covenant of salt?" A covenant of salt. In ancient times, salt symbolized permanence and preservation. The marginal reading translates this as a perpetual covenant. This wasn't a temporary arrangement or a conditional agreement dependent on human behavior. This was something eternal, something incorruptible. To truly grasp the magnitude of God's promise, we must turn to Psalm chapter 89, a passage so explicit and powerful that it leaves no room for ambiguity. God declares, I have made a covenant with my chosen, I have sworn unto David my servant, saying, Thy seed will I establish forever, and build up thy throne to all generations. Notice the scope, not a few generations, not some generations, not even many generations, but all generations. Every single one, without exception. The psalm continues with striking language, My mercy will I keep for him forevermore, and my covenant shall stand fast with him. His seed also will I make to endure forever, and his throne as the days of heaven. But here's where the covenant's unconditional nature becomes absolutely clear. God anticipates the inevitable, that David's descendants will stumble and fail. If his children forsake my law, and walk not in my judgments, if they break my statutes, and keep not my commandments, then will I visit their transgressions with the rod, and their iniquity with stripes. Punishment is promised. Consequences are guaranteed. But then comes the word that changes everything, nevertheless. Nevertheless, my loving kindness will I not utterly take from him, nor suffer my faithfulness to fail. My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that has gone out of my lips. Think about the power of those words. God is essentially saying, even if they break every single commandment in my statute book, I will chastise them, but I will not break my covenant. The promise is unconditional. It shall stand fast, regardless of how many times they are visited with rod and stripe for their transgressions. Here's a fascinating detail that clinches the interpretation. Throughout these covenant passages, God consistently uses plural terminology, his children, they, their. This grammatical pattern proves that the covenant doesn't refer to Christ's spiritual reign in believers' hearts. Consider the logical impossibility. Could Jesus Christ, described by Isaiah as Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, could this Prince of Peace, who is the Mighty God, break his own commandments? Could he forsake his own law, disregard his own statutes, and then punish himself for his own wickedness? The very idea is absurd. These warnings apply not to the immortal one, but to the frail mortal sons of David, of whom Solomon was the first. Solomon did fail. 1 Kings 11 records, the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. God had personally appeared to Solomon twice and commanded him not to follow other gods. Yet Solomon disobeyed. The Lord declared, Forasmuch as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend thee kingdom from thee, and I will give unto thy servant. Would God destroy the kingdom completely? Would the covenant be nullified? The answer reveals everything. Notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it, for David thy father's sake, but will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake. Notice the repeated phrase, for David my servant's sake. Why preserve even one tribe? Because God had given the kingdom over Israel to David and his sons forever. The covenant demanded it. God's own word required it. The text uses remarkable language. He dare not take away the entire kingdom from that royal line. Can we say that about God? Yes, because God bound himself through his covenant with words, which forever shut the door of retreat. After declaring, My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is gone out of my lips, God takes an oath that staggers the imagination. He brings the physical universe into the contract. Once have I sworn, by my holiness, that I will not lie unto David. His seed shall endure forever, and his throne as the sun before me. It shall be established forever as the moon, and as a faithful witness in the heaven. The sun, the moon, the very heavens serve as eternal witnesses. As long as the sun rises and the moon reflects its light, that's how long David's throne will last. Another verse drives it home, His seed also will I make to endure forever, and his throne as the days of heaven. So we return to our opening question, if God promised David's throne would last forever, where is it today? The answer isn't that the covenant failed or that God broke his promise. The unconditional nature of the Davidic covenant means it must still exist, somewhere, somehow, because God swore it into perpetual existence. We are witnesses unto men throughout all generations, that the Lord God of Israel has not lied unto his servant David. This isn't just ancient history. This is a testament to God's character, his faithfulness, his integrity, his absolute commitment to his word. When God makes a promise backed by His holiness and witnessed by the cosmos itself, that promise cannot fail. The throne exists. The line continues. The covenant endures, not because humans maintained it, but because God swore He would, and God cannot lie. The unbreakable promise remains unbroken, and that changes everything. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.